Hi guys, Nigel here with you, and this is, what is it now, part 28? 28 is it? Yes, part 28 of the Big Bad Buff build for beginners. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe, and if you like this video, give it a like, and if you don't like it, hit that like button twice. You can see I've been doing a little bit of sanding now. These wings have been on here for 48 hours, 60 hours, something like that, and the glue's gone off pretty solid. I'm happy with that. One thing I'm not over the moon about, I've got a slight amount of unevenness on the wings. I mean, one side is probably 3mm higher than the other, but that's how they were anyway. I mean, if you look at a lot of B-52s, when they're full of fuel, both of the wingtip gears on the ground. If they're not full of fuel, you get one in the air, especially if they're not armed up as well. So, I'll see how this turns out. If I really want to be pedantic and be perfect, what I can always do is when we come to fit the wheels, because we've got our axles down here, obviously, our undercarriage, what I can do is on one side is drill out the holes in the centre of the wheel slightly larger, and then super glue them on with the wings sat on blocks. So basically we could, I know you can't see beyond here, but basically we could put some blocks under here, get the wings all sat nice and parallel, get the fuselage straight along its length, and then slide the wheels on with plenty of super glue in the boards. Just let them go off hard, and then that will give us our square landing. But I'm sure with the weight and everything, it's all going to be absolutely fine. I'm not sort of overly worried about it. So as you can see, I've started doing some sanding here. I don't know if you can see on the camera, but I certainly didn't notice it before. But this wing root, and basically what I'm talking about is like the dimension from here to here is wider than this one. So obviously this wing root is slightly higher because it's coming more up the fuselage, so we can afford to do some sanding. Now, as you can see, I've been sanding here and I've taken out some panel lines. I'm not worried about that. We can recreate those, as you know, and I want to bring these along actually and make them meet the wing root. I'll probably put a piece of stretch sprue down in there just to demarcate the actual wing root, because there's actually a load of steel, but there's strips and everything down here. If you look at a real one, it's not all smooth and blended, so we'll kind of give this a busy look to it, and then we can, when we weather it, we'll pick it all up. But basically the other thing I need to do is, you can see, get it up in the picture, see if you can see it, where I've done my stretched sprue raised panel lines. Some of them are a little bit pronounced, so I'm going to go over them when we've got all this done and just sort of basically just sort of break them down, because I'm going to need a hard stick for that. I think I'll use something like an 800 hard stick, and just basically take the tops off of these raised panel lines. And the reason I'm doing this with a hard stick is because if I use a soft stick, a sponge, it will basically sand either side of the raised panel line, whereas a hard stick won't. So I can just basically just knock the tops off of them, and I think that'll look a lot better. And even if they sort of fade away, it's not a massive issue, because it won't really notice under the paint anyway. But I mean, that one's there is pretty much disintegrated already. But there we go. So I'll deal with that afterwards. But I just thought I'd bring that up and talk about it now, just so you can see what I'm talking about. And then we'll probably give that another quick splash of black before we paint it, just to see how they look. I don't know if we can see any more down here, but you can see where there's one there which is quite raised in that area there. So we'll just knock the top off of these, just like so. It just sort of takes them down and just make them not so definite, not so in your face, if you like. So we should be able to gently just go along here and hope we don't pick up any edges. Just basically take them back. Okay, so there we go. So right, these wing roots, I want to get a coarser stick, so I've got this is a 220 now Infini zebra sander. So I'm just going to basically go along the top of here. Now what I can do here is use a magic marker. I had a message from a guy, thank you very much, who offered some magic markers that wipe off of plastic. Yes, magic markers do wipe off of plastic. bare plastic. Once you start sanding and you get this grainy finish, it kind of soaks in and bites in. So that's why I don't tend to use magic markers for sanding. If you're actually, say it's a flat wing surface and you've got a mould line here, say, and you're going to sand it until it disappears, that's absolutely fine because it's going to disappear. But when you're doing stuff like this where you're finding low spots, if I use magic marker and there's a trench in here, the magic marker will remain in that trench. It won't go anywhere. So, and it will just keep coming back through the paint. So that's why I tend to just use pencil instead. And we can see here I'm going across with this sanding stick, and you can see I'm sanding here and I'm sanding here, but not in the centre. So we can see what we've got is a sort of very wide trench there. So it's good to put something on there to give you a guide. I've talked in the past about using paint as a guide. The biggest problem with using paint is it does clog your sticks, and if you don't sort of want to wait, which most of us won't, you don't want to wait 24 hours for the paint to dry, then it will just clog your sticks. So here we go. So we're going to go in there like so. I will say this is going to be a fairly quick, fairly short video, guys, because I want to get something out there for you. Just take away that. We've got quite a raised area there on that panel line. So yeah, I want to get something out there for you, but we're unfortunately now at the point where it's going to be a case of putting some filler in here and leave it to dry. So obviously, you know, I've got a choice of either putting a 1 hour video out for you in about 2 or 3 weeks time, or put out 2 or 3 shorter videos in the meantime before we work up to our paint. So I also need to do the bombs. The bombs are built, they're assembled. So I'm going to go over this with a sponge just to get rid of those flat spots. So that there we could consider as pretty much done. As you know, I've done, as I showed you at the beginning, I've already done some sanding off camera, because you know you don't want to see me just sand. That's like watching paint dry. And then we'll do the same on this side. As I say, I'm not worried at all about the panel lines. You can see here the paint clogs the sanding stick, even though it's been on here for over a week. Well, no, it's probably about 5 days. No, it's nearly a week, isn't it? Because I painted this and then I went ill. So thank you to the couple of people who've emailed me with concerns for my health. Thank you very much. I don't think your concerns are founded, or at least I hope they're not, because you know, it just came and went. But then I was watching a Frankie Day video and he had the same. He kind of had this awful fever that knocked him out, and sort of 24, 48 hours later he was fine again, which is the same as I had, which was really weird. And he said that he had been told about years previously he'd had all these vaccinations, and you know, for polio and God knows what, and I've had the same because of moving between America and England. In those days you had to have jabs to go to the USA, so I was having jabs all the time when I was a youngster. And he's been told that apparently if you've had all those jabs, then viruses are less likely to sort of stick around. They sort of get you, and that's it. I think that's what he was saying anyway. If you watch the video, you'll see what I mean. I love watching Frankie's videos. He's a great guy, and he's feeling a bit lonely at the moment, because I think it's his first year without his wife, isn't it? So, but anyway, I do message now and again on his videos, but he doesn't. I don't think he reads the comments in that much detail, because he doesn't seem to respond very much. I think he's got a lot going on in his life at the moment. So anyway, but if you haven't watched this channel, go have a watch. Frankie Day Models. I mean, if I could build in a year what he does in a month, I'd be chuffed. He's just amazing. I don't know how he does it. He mustn't sleep. I don't know how he does it. He's got about 5 ship models on the go at the moment, and I think 3 of those are card. You know, and he sort of does these winter builds, and you know, it's like it does them live, and it's like, yeah, start on the Saturday and by the following Friday it's done. It's just crazy, and it's not little 1/72 scale Airfix Spitfires either. We're talking, you know, bloody 72nd scale Sunderlands and stuff. So I've just remembered now I didn't actually replace these raised panel lines here because of all this sanding. So we're going to get that and take that across and down there, and we'll do all that. So just going to do my pencil again. See how we're looking. And to those of you that have sent me emails asking questions about stuff and everything, if I haven't responded, I'm sorry. It's just that my inbox is just bloody crazy at the moment, and you know, as I've said before in my chats, I can't sit at the computer for 2 hours a day just answering questions. It's just crazy. So you know, sometimes people ask questions in the comments below the video, and you've got to respond and give them a nice answer, and they thanks you or respond or whatever. So I tend not to bother now. I mean, everybody else, if you want to ask questions and stuff, you've got to be enrolled onto their channel or whatever. So I don't know. I don't think there's many people out there that would give 2 hours of their day every day to answer questions for people for nothing, for free. You know, when there's other stuff they could be getting on with. Right, so I'm kind of thinking now we need to get something in there. Now, I don't really want to put any filler in here because of all the dust. As you know, my eyes reacted to the filler dust and stuff, and I don't think it's really deep enough. If I use Tamiya filler, I just don't like it. I don't like the way it dries. So if I use Tamiya filler, I'll be kind of, I don't know, I'm tempted to put Mr. Surface in there and give it about 3 or 4 coats and let it all blend out. But I think we're sort of there. In fact, I may even use sprue glue, and then I'll be able to glue my strips on with polyadhesive rather than super glue. This is a cumbersome old thing. Right, I'm now going to come in with a flory skinny stick and just lightly sand these areas here where I've got the brush marks from the glue application. I think we're good to go with that. I'm not sort of really going to fuss about this too much because the joint at the bottom here is really, really nice. And in reality, I think there's a right angled fillet in here anyway, which is all full of screws and rivets and God knows what. So there we go. I think we'll give that a coat of paint and see how it looks. I'm kind of happy with that. I get a round section blade, a number 10 Swan Morton scalpel blade, and just go into the corner and just... These round blades are great. They've got so many uses. They're really, really good for going into corners. They're great for cutting photo etch. They're great for applying CA glue, as you've probably seen me doing. Really, really good. Now I've got a brush here. Fiberglass pencil. Careful not to breathe any of this in. It's really not very nice. Just extend those bristles out of it. And that brush will basically show you if there's any areas raised with glue or whatever. It will show you. Now you can see there's a mark. I've got something there, so I'm going to take that out. There we go. And then I'm going to turn it over. Take a look at the other side, which is much better than that side. So again, we're just going to go in remove any marks from the glue, which are hardly anything. That's the beauty of using liquid cements. You can brush it in and the brush marks pretty much disappear. You could probably use this for weathering as well, this fiberglass pencil. You can see on there you can get a sort of pretty good worn effect. So anyway, I digress. So just brush in there like that. And I think that's going to look fine. It's painted. It's going to look absolutely fine. So there we go. I'm just going to grab a soft brush. Just brush this down to get any stray fibres off. I mean, this is falling apart, this brush. Just to get any stray fibres off, because those things are horrible. And then I'm going to vacuum them up. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, so I've got the camera a bit closer now. We've had a bit of a clean up, bit of a vacuum up. Got my sprue goo here. If you don't know what sprue goo is, go back, have a look at the videos. If you go to my, I've been asked this a few times now. I've just noticed I've got some more of that fibre there, so I'm going to just wet this paper towel and just pick those fibres up in a wet paper towel, because they are horrible things. So yeah, basically, if you go to my channel, if you want to search for something, go to my channel and then you'll see a search bar come up and you can search my channel. So if you want to see B52, put B52 and it will show you all of my B52 videos. So if you do that for the sprue goo, you'll see I've done a video on how to make this. I've done a couple of explanations now on how to make it. One of the biggest problems, these bloody white rings on these Tamiya glues, they just keep coming off and sticking to the lid rather than staying in the cap, which they're supposed to do. Get in there, go on. Bloody things. Right, so we'll get some of our sprue goo, and this stuff is great. It's basically Tamiya extra thin and styrene. The beauty of it is it's got a lot of benefits. The biggest benefit being it's actually styrene. So in this situation like here, where I want to be able to add our stretch sprue for our raised panel lines, I can use liquid glue to stick them on rather than having to use super glue, because obviously if I use filler, then Tamiya extra thin is not going to stick the stretch sprue onto filler. So here we go. The other advantage you've got, if you had a gap here, which I haven't because it's been sorted, but if there was a gap there, I would be able to fill the gap up with this, and rather than just being a filler, it will kind of go in and fill that gap up and weld it all together. It shrinks back a lot, but it actually, rather than just being a filler, especially these bloody like Vallejo fillers and stuff and plastic putty, I think they're just tile grout. They don't stick to the plastic at all. They just come off. They'll stick in a gap, but I don't rate them at all. So that's just my opinion. If you disagree, there's no need to tell me in the comments below. I know a lot of people use it, a lot of people love it. I also know a lot of people can't stand it. It's like the Vallejo primers, the fine surf, the Vallejo primers, that polyurethane primers, bloody awful, absolutely awful things. Some people swear by them. I can't see how. It is very, actually, to be honest, it's a very nice surface primer if you don't need to do any afterwork on it. As soon as you try and sand it or whatever, it just peels. So, but yeah, if it's something like if you've built a tank and it's all perfect and you're not going to do any sanding or anything on it, then I think it's great for that. It's a good base for your following coats of paint, but it doesn't actually stick to the plastic at all, as well, no Vallejo product does. One of my questions from one of my followers in the week was, I've gone from enamels to acrylics, and all of a sudden I'm finding that when I mask, the masking tape pulls the paint off. Yep, that's the problem. And the biggest problem is that word acrylic. It's used very loosely in the modelling world. it should just say not enamel, really, in my opinion, because, you know, a true acrylic is probably something like a Viejo or a Mission Models. Maybe not even a Mission Models. I know that Harry Houdini did a lovely video all about acrylic paints a while back, and it really does explain all the differences. But I can tell you that basically, I mean, if you compare a Viejo, which is called an acrylic paint, to something like a Mr. Hobby, which is called an acrylic paint, nah, they're not anything like the same. Mr. Hobby sticks like poo to a blanket. Viejo, you can just scratch it off. I mean, this is Stynel Res. You can see this is an acrylic primer, and that's stuck on there really well. So if that was Viejo paint or Viejo primer, I could just rub it off my nail easily. So there we go. I think I'm going to put a little bit more around that leading edge a touch. Just a little touch around there. There we go. So now I started talking about the ups and downs of this. It does have one big disadvantage, is it takes quite a long time to dry. Now, many people will say to you, you can put this on and a couple of hours later you can sand it down. Yes, you can. But if you've got a, like what I've got here, just to explain to you, if the camera was looking along here now like this, what we've got is our wing coming up, we've got our fuselage, and in between we've got a divot. So we've got the wing, we've got a divot, and then we've got our fuselage, the wing root. So we've got the wing, divot, wing root. So in that divot, this is going to get in there, it's going to bite its way in, work its way in, and it's all going to settle down. And then I can sand it and everything, you know, in 3 or 4 hours time, and it'll be lovely and smooth. And I'll come back 3 or 4 days later and there'll be a line there where it's sunk. So basically, it's good for certain things and not for others. But don't ever be tempted. I mean, that I can touch that now, especially if I wet my finger, I can just rub over the top of it. It's actually a good way to get it to settle down. But basically, you know, don't be tempted to come after a couple of hours and sand it down and get it all finished and that's it. What I will do with this, I will sand this out, I will blend it out, and then I'll probably put some more, and then I'll do a little finishing job with some Mr. Surfacer. But I want to try and leave as much plastic as I can so that when I put in these raised panel lines, they stick to it. So we'll let that dry, and then I'll be back. So I was going to finish this video here, but I don't think this is really a complete video. So I'm going to let that dry for 24 hours, give it a sand back, and then we'll put some more on, and then we'll call that a day, leave it for 72 hours, and we'll go from there. Right, here we are. So we've had like, I don't know, 60 hours, I guess this has been. So I'm going to take my 220 grit coarse stick and just knock the top off of this raised area. You can see it's sort of raised up and stuff, so it still won't be completely hard, but it will be on its way there. So we can just knock the top off of this. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a flory stick, a blue one, which is quite coarse, and save destroying all the detail around the area, just to take the top off. Because what we're going to do after we've done this is blend it all in. Because as we know, we've got a bit of a divot in the middle here, so I'm going to add some more until I'm sort of pretty much all done with sprue goo, and then what I'll do is I'll finish all that sprue goo off camera, because you just don't want to watch me just countless hours of sanding and sanding and sanding. It's pointless. So also worth remembering, guys, pick your model up and sand it. Don't do it on its undercarriage legs. You'll probably break them off, or at best weaken them. So there we go. And I can smell it. You can smell the solvents coming out, so it's obviously still not completely cured. I'm just going to basically smooth it out. This is one of the biggest problems with these skinny sticks. You can see they wrinkle up, which is okay for stuff like this, but if you do fine detail, like fine edges and stuff, one of those catches, it generally snaps them off, so something worth bearing in mind. But they are good for like getting into small areas. And the thing is that they'll only wrinkle on one side, they'll stretch and break on this side and wrinkle on that side, but you can see when you do that with it, it kind of, there we go, it's ripped it there. So that skinny stick is now pretty much useless. Right. So now I'm going to come in with the 220 and just sort of see if we can feather it all out. I'll get my pencil on it again. And we'll see how that goes. I bet when we get some primer on, this area here is going to look bloody awful. It'll need some work. But it's all par for the course. It's all in a day's work. I mean, this is always going to be an issue with any B-52 kit. You've got this huge wing hanging off. You know, you need a big, strong joint. You've got a big area there, which is, you know, takes the viewer's eye straight away. So it's always going to be a problem. And I personally think that this is probably the best fitting system there is. I mean, the AMT Italeri one is okay, but of course you've got that dreaded bloody plastic which is so soft it just sags anyway, and their wing and anhedral, dihedral, whatever is all wrong in it. The wing root shape is wrong. So there we go. Don't be afraid to use coarse sticks. You know, get in there and get the stuff sanded down. Start using fine sticks, you just clog them up, you produce loads of heat. I mean, if this wasn't raised detail, I wouldn't worry about it at all. I've got to replace all this raised detail, but you know, we're not worried about that. And if you are following along with this build, I've just got onto Premium Hobbies and ordered another couple of rolls of the 1.5mm tape for doing the walkways. I think it comes on a 5 metre roll. Well, if you think about it, there's 1 metre there, there's 2 metres on the wings, and then you've got the fuselage as well, so there's a good 3 metres. So you're going to use the best part of a roll just to do this model for your walkways. So you know, get onto Edit Premium Hobbies, order yourself some 1.5mm Izu tape, and then you can do it the same as I've done it if you're building it along with me. And don't forget to use your code NMB10, you'll get 10% off. Again, we're knocking the top off of these here. Just wondering what that is. This is one of the problems with sprue glue. I thought, what's that there? It's like a curved panel, but it's actually a string from the sprue glue. I don't know if any of you are watching and enjoying my Titanic shenanigans. Had a couple of negative comments on the porthole work. Just remember, guys, if you leave a negative comment, I just block you, because I've got no time for it really. You know, if you've got nothing nice to say nothing at all. You know, I watch a lot of people's videos and think, why have you done that? That's a bloody waste of time. Why have you done this? I don't tell them, because I know they've put a lot of work and effort into what they're doing, and they've put a lot of work and effort into editing their videos. So if all you've got to say is something negative, probably best not to bother, or make your negative comment, but realise that you probably won't be watching again. So there we go. And yeah, I used to sort of, you know, get into answering and responding and stuff. It's pointless. I think people just do it for the reaction, really. Still. Anyway, what we're spending the time talking about. So I've got here a 400 grit just to smooth this plastic out in this area. Just initially, just give it a quick smooth out. We'll see how it's looking. Yeah, I've got some excess down in there. I'm going to scrape away rather than sand. Just getting and scrape that out there. There we go. And then I can come in with a skinny stick. Just remove the worst of it. And then something finer just to polish that out. Obviously we'll be going over this with Mr. Servicer, this whole area, and then we'll be able to see what's going on. So I can feel that I've got a divot in there. You can see the shiny bit where it's sunk. We've got some areas here. In fact, I've got a shiny bit here. See that shiny bit down that edge there? Not the bit in the middle, the bit on the edge. That's showing us that we've actually got some more sanding to do. So we're just sanding that area. We basically want this area and this area to be level. Otherwise you've got no chance of getting all this flat. There we go. As I say, we'll do all this now and we get some primer on it. It'll look a right mess. So I'm going to get some more sprue glue on there now. Now I was working on my Titanic last night and I thinned this out, so we should be a lot better now with a lot less of that awful stringing on there. So yeah, it's still a little bit thick. So I'm just going to brush some of this in here. And then again I'll leave this for a good 48, maybe 72 hours before I rub it back, because I don't want it to all settle down and sink on me once we've got the glue joint done or the priming done. And we also have to remember that all the way down through this, just get that off of there, all the way down through this whole wing section, which is, you know, a good 20 millimeters wide, there's a lot of solvent cement in there, which is probably still curing. So you know, if you can, it's probably best to leave this area for, I don't know, as long as you can, really, before you start messing with it. I mean, if you can leave it for a month, you know, you've got more chance. But the downside of this is the time it takes to dry and settle and everything. The upside to it is you've got something that you can stick your stretch sprue to, because it's polystyrene, it's the same as the rest of the model, and B, you've got a very strong flexible joint. When I say flexible, I mean it can bend with the rest of the plastic and not just crack. I mean, I can pick this up now with one wing, you know, give it a good shake, and it's not all cracky and stuff. If I use something like Viejo putty in there, if I had a big crack, it would probably split the putty. But you can see I'm bending that wing up and down now. It won't break that joint because it's all just polystyrene, all just welded in together. But there we go. In fact, I'm going to put a little bit more down this side because I can see it's got a bit of sinkage in it already. There we go. Right, so there we go. I'm going to call it a day for that one, guys. I know it's another short one, but it's going to be another 2 or 3 days before I touch this again. So just to get something out there, I'm going to put this video out for you today. This has been part 28. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned, and stay tuned for some Titanic stuff. I'm also hoping to do a Christmas build on Christmas Day as well. We'll see. But there we go. And I have ordered the Great Wall Hobbies 1/44 scale B52H. It seems like forever ago, and I suspect it's stuck in a container somewhere on the docks. But I'm waiting for that to come through. As soon as that comes through, we'll have a review and quite possibly a quick build of that as well. From initial photos I've seen, looks pretty good. I see a couple of inaccuracies straight away, but I think it will be nice just to sort of glue it together and have a look. You know, see what it's like, because it'll be a lot more manageable than this, that's for sure. But we'll see how it looks once it's assembled. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all soon with part 29. I will probably do some work on this off camera because it's just crazy just having you watch me fill sand. It's stupid. Until we get to the finishing touches, and then you can see how we go about getting our seams perfected. But until then, happy modelling, stay safe, see you all soon. Bye for now.